Hello everyone, how are you? My name is Michaela Valletta, also known as the Body Scientist. I'm currently on my IG Live, but I will be recording this video and reposting it to my YouTube page, The Body Scientist 81. So be sure that you follow me in both places. To those of you who follow me, I'm sure you already know who I am, but just a quick background. I have a background in exercise and sports science and nutrition science. I am a strength and conditioning coach certified by the NSCA. I am a sports nutritionist certified by the ISSN. I'm a pole dance instructor, dancer, former multi-sport athlete, yada, 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 right? Basically, I'm a nutritionist, exercise physiologist, strength coach, okay? And I have a very holistic approach, and a holistic approach to fitness and nutrition and health that is rooted in traditional ways as well. Okay, so I'm very much into looking at what the people before us did to maintain optimal health, because despite what we're being told, we are not living longer now than the generations prior, than people, a couple hundred years ago. And we are not healthier, okay? There's lots of anthropological research to show that. So I am not a fan of processed foods and fake vitamins and the graduate program that I was in was the only program in the country that did not take money from the food companies, okay? All of the nutrition programs in this country are funded by the food companies, the same way that the medical programs are funded by the drug companies, okay? And so with that being said, today I want to talk about, I hear a lot of people, people who might be nurses or doctors or, trainers or other aspects of health and fitness who will give nutrition advice, okay? And one thing is that trainers are not nutritionists. And when you become a trainer, they make that clear, okay? Being a trainer, a strength coach, a personal trainer is not the same thing as being a nutritionist. And even regular nutritionists don't know much about sports nutrition, which really, sports nutrition is nutrition for the active body. Like if you actually have to do something and exert yourself every day, what would you eat? Which, like, the regular study of nutrition is just like stagnant, okay? So, I hear a lot of people give nutrition advice constantly, people who are herbalists as well. Herbalism is not the same as nutrition. As a nutritionist, I do know about herbs, but I'm not an herbalist. If somebody needed advice on, herbal advice, I would refer them to an herbalist, right? So with that being said, I hear a lot of people, health professionals or not, say this one statement that I feel like is really flawed, and that is everything in moderation, right? So when people talk about, like certain foods being bad for you, and they're giving advice to clients, about, it could be weight loss, it could be pregnancy, and they're like, telling people that they don't need to feel bad about certain foods, or they don't need to cut out certain foods. And that, for one, is not true, okay? Number two, when people say everything in moderation, like, you have to define that, right? So how would somebody define that? Now, most people's definition of that is probably vague, but I would guess that they mean that eat a little bit of this, eat a little bit of that, like eat equal portions of everything, right? If that's what that means. Now, that's not a true statement, okay? There are certain nutrients that you need a lot of, okay? There are certain nutrients you need a little of. Then there are certain things that are straight poison, okay? That even in a small quantity could be overstimulating your brain, causing brain issues, destroying your gut flora, okay? Causing severe inflammation. There are certain things that you should never consume, okay? Never. Or, unless you are somehow forced to by, I don't even know how, because there's a lot of things I'm not eating and nobody can force me to eat it. But there are certain things that you should never be consuming. So this statement, when people say everything in moderation, like you have a pregnant woman who is craving food with artificial colors in it, and red dye number 3 and yellow and blue dye, and high fructose corn syrup and canola oil and MSG. That's not something that you should consume if you're pregnant, okay? So to tell somebody, I mean, you shouldn't consume it if you're not, but as a pregnant woman who's growing, you're forming the future health of the baby that you're going to birth. Now, some people don't have a choice. Some people live in very impoverished conditions, and they literally don't have the money or the resources to get better food. So they might be, but even in that case, you don't want to consume. You want to do your very best not to consume stuff with artificial colors in it and all these other chemicals, right? But there are educated people, who can do better. And when I say this, I'm not trying to sound wrong. So I don't mean any offense, but I'm saying that I see people giving advice who are healthcare professionals, whether it be a nurse, whether it be a trainer, and they're telling people that, oh yeah, if you eat some of that, straight poison sometimes, it's okay. Everything in moderation. And it's like, no. Sometimes, like, I will say that, I had a soft spot for gummy bears, okay? And yes, there are companies now that make gummy bears that don't have all the crap in it, but there are times, that was my guilty pleasure. There are times that I would just give in and eat gummy bears from, like, the corner store, okay, which is not good at all. It wasn't often, but I definitely would try not to consume that. I didn't think, like, when people say everything in moderation, it's kind of like, I feel like it's implying, like, first of all, it's not clearly defined, and some people are consuming certain things way more than they should be, and they're consuming other things not enough, right? Like, so we need lots of fat, okay? We need lots of fat. Our brain is made from fat. Our brain is mostly made of saturated fat, okay? Long chain saturated fat that occurs in animals, not the short chain saturated fat that's in coconut oil and in plant foods. But saturated fat, cholesterol, DHA, which is a long chain omega-3 fat that's found in, cod liver oil and animal fats as well. Our saturated fat fuels our heart. Our heart uses saturated fat as a fuel. Our lungs use saturated fat to be healthy. Our skin needs saturated fat, okay? It protects our skin. It nourishes the skin. We have a phospholipid bilayer on our cells, right? So we need lots of fat. But most people think that we need a little bit of fat. And even then, they think, oh, I ate a lot of olive oil and avocado. Olive oil and avocado. But it's not the fats, it's not the right fats you need for your brain, okay? They're monounsaturated fats, which is not the fat you need for your brain. It's not the fat that you need for your heart or your lungs. It has no cholesterol. You need cholesterol to make hormones. All of your hormones are made from cholesterol. All of your hormones have a cholesterol backbone. And that includes vitamin D, which vitamin D is really a hormone, okay? And it's made from cholesterol. So if you're not consuming cholesterol, you're not consuming enough cholesterol. Like, we need lots of cholesterol and saturated fat. If you're not consuming enough of it, you could have hormonal problems, okay? But a lot of people don't realize that that's the kind of fat that they need. There are different kinds of fats. There's polyunsaturated, monounsaturated, and saturated. And even in those three categories, there are many different kinds of saturated fats and fatty acids. There are many different kinds of monounsaturated and polyunsaturated fats. But the general nutrition advice is to consume polyunsaturated fats and to avoid saturated fats. And like olive oil and and avocado oil is perfectly fine, which no, you know what I'm saying? So you need you can never eat too much butter, okay? You can never eat too much grass-fed butter. Eating grass-fed tallow and pasture lard and ghee, okay? All those are highly nutritious fats. I actually have a video, on my IG and YouTube page about fats and knowing what are the best fats to cook with. I think you should really look at that video where I explain a lot more of the chemistry behind fats, okay? And I have other videos as well, and I'll be doing more in the future. But I just feel like it's dangerous because, like, you have to have a certain, measurement, okay? When you're telling somebody moderation, like, what does that mean? That really just has people out here just eating whatever, saying everything in moderation, and they have no idea what it is that they need, like how much vitamin A, vitamin D, vitamin E, vitamin K, you know, B vitamins, you know, protein, fat, how much do I need of that, calcium, iron every day, and what are the best nutritional sources of that? And not talking about taking a multivitamin, okay? Multivitamins are no good, okay? I've done videos before on supplements and vitamins and prenatal vitamins. They're not good, okay? They are toxic chemical forms that are made in a laboratory. It's not the same chemical form that occurs in nature, which is what our body recognizes and can use for its biochemical processes, okay? So if you're consuming a artificial form of vitamin D, artificial form of vitamin A, artificial form of folate of iron, okay? It doesn't have the same biochemical reactions in our bodies, and sometimes either do nothing or are toxic, okay? They cause not good things to happen. Like consuming iron as a supplement feeds cancer cells, okay? It feeds cancer cells. So you never want to take iron as a supplement. I believe in getting your nutrients from food. You know, the best sources of iron, what are they? Red meat, liver. Liver tastes like iron, okay? Egg yolks. You know, those are going to be like, you know, your best sources. But the whole thing is that I feel like the whole point of this conversation is that I feel like there's a lot of misunderstanding and dangerous kind of dogma with the everything in moderation. Because a good source of potassium without consuming bananas, coconut water, okay, raw coconut water, watermelon juice. Watermelon is super high in potassium. Avocados are very high in potassium. And broth, bone broth is very high in potassium. Native Americans consume bone broth for hydration, okay? Not a lot of water. We don't need as much water as people think. You don't need to drink gallons of water every day. Drinking too much water can actually dehydrate you. Hydration is not just about water, it's about electrolytes. And potassium helps to hydrate you. And people with hypertension, a lot of times, are very deficient in potassium. But yeah, some of the best sources of potassium: coconut water, watermelon juice. I want to think that potatoes and sweet potatoes might be. Don't quote me on it, but I think so. But I definitely think of, if I need a lot of potassium, I think of coconut water, watermelon juice. And I think apple cider, raw apple cider, I think is also high in potassium. Okay, mostly certain fruit, and I think that raw milk might also be high in potassium. I think. Okay, so, but for sure bone broth. So yeah, so it's like if somebody takes a little bit of antibiotics, right? Antibiotics, for those of you who follow my work, you see that I talk a lot about maintaining your microbiome and intestinal dysbiosis and probiotics. Super critical, okay? We have more bacterial cells in our body. More bacteria DNA in our body. Well, first of all, we have more bacterial cells in our body than we do our own human cells from our own body, okay? We have more bacterial cells than our own body cells in our body, number one. All those bacterial cells have DNA. And that DNA is informing what the bacteria does, okay? So not only are we affected by the DNA that we inherited from our parents, and then the nutrients that turn the genes on and off, because genes can be turned on and off. It's called nutrigenomics. There are things that turn on genes and turn them off. There's things that mutate them, okay? So the thing is that it's not just that DNA. We're also affected by the DNA in the flora, the biome, the bacteria that is on our skin and our gut and all of that, okay? And so it's really important to consume fermented foods, you know. Most people don't even think of that. So while you're saying everything in moderation, are you consuming fermented foods? Are you consuming foods that are high in vitamin D, because vitamin D is a serious deficiency on the planet? And do you know what the best sources of vitamin D is? And don't say the sun. If that's your answer, take a good look at my 2 videos I did on vitamin D. But just ask yourself, like, how much vitamin D do you actually need every day? And you know, what are your sources? And what are your sources of vitamin A? And what are your sources of high quality protein? And what are your sources, you know what I'm saying? And what foods are you getting, and how much of it do you need? Having some idea of that. Because if you're not eating enough of certain nutrients, you know, you definitely can end up with deficiencies. You know what I'm saying? And if you're eating too much of something that's not good for you, like one of the things that I do with my clients and in my work is try to educate people so they understand for themselves, you know, how to evaluate food and what they're even eating or what they're buying. I find most people do not have the ability to do that. Even when I hear people who are well-meaning people say things about like Gatorade, and they say why Gatorade is bad, they'll be like, oh yeah, it's too much sugar. You know, Gatorade is bad because it's so full of sugar. Wrong. Okay? There's a lot of reasons why Gatorade is bad. Sugar is the least of the reason why Gatorade is bad. Gatorade has all kinds of brominated oils and artificial colors, and like everything is wrong with Gatorade. Okay? The type of sugar that's in it is not even the worst part. Okay? Or people will talk about eating salt as if it's bad. We need salt. You do not need to have, even if you have hypertension. Many studies have shown it has nothing to do with consuming too much salt. If you're consuming, first of all, you want to consume sea salt, not table salt. Sodium chloride is no bueno. Okay, so you don't want to consume sodium chloride, which is regular table salt. That's not good. Okay, but when you're consuming sea salt with all the minerals that occurs, it has a totally different effect on your body, and we need salt. Okay. So I'm going to just, you know, end this here. I think you guys get my point. If you are on YouTube and you don't follow me on IG, I highly suggest that you do, and look at the books that I post, because I'm always posting and recommending books for you all to look at on your own. It's important to read, you know, take your health in your hands. If you really care about being the best version of you that you want to be, and you really care about being healthy, I mean, it feels good to be healthy. And then you can age in a graceful way and feel good and have full use of your body. When it comes to your health, what you don't know can hurt you. Can and will. Okay? Can and will. And so the best prevention is taking care of ourselves, right? So definitely take a look at the books that I post and recommend. Sometimes I recommend them in videos, but I definitely post them on my IG page. And check out my other videos on my YouTube page, The Body Scientist 81. Check out my videos on vitamin D and fats and all of that. And I think I've talked your ears off enough. I think I've gotten the point across. So I'll end this video here, and I will see you all soon in the next video, okay? Have a good day. Bye.